Once a year, I haven't for a few years, I talk about everybody's favorite subject in the world. And this is that day. We talk about goals. And you're like, really? I hate setting goals, right? That is the sentiment of America. I know I'm kind of unique when it comes to goal setting because I love it and I know that I'm weird. Because the reality is, here's the reality of this. Only 20% of Americans set goals. So if this is a typical audience, 8 out of 10 of you do not set goals. 8 out of 10 of you. So if this is a typical audience, 80% of you just won't set a goal this year. Of the 20% that do set their goals, only 30% of them achieve their goals. So that means 6% of Americans set and achieve goals in a typical year. So it's a very small percentage, and 80% don't even try. And if you talk to that 80% about why they don't, they use words like this. They say it's frustrating, it just doesn't seem that important, or it's discouraging. You ever been discouraged because you set a goal that was really important to you and you failed to achieve it? And then you're like, why should I try? Why should I try? And here I get up on a New Year's Day just to come to church, and you're going to talk about goals? And I'm one of the 80% that doesn't like this subject? Really? Come on. So, and I get it. I get what it's like. And last year, I set 5 goals for myself. One of those goals, shortly I realized it wasn't the right season of life. Scribbled it off. Of the other 4, none of them was I able to complete in 2022. So I'm 0 for 5, which is a little bit unusual for me, but I learned a lot. So I don't get discouraged. I try and learn from it, and then I try and move forward. But I get why people are discouraged and won't even try. Oh, by the way, some people, this is the only goal they have. My goal this weekend is to move only enough so people know I'm not dead, right? So I understand that. So it's like, hey, that's a goal. But here's why it's so important. What goal setting does to your brain and why it's spectacularly effective. I read that headline this week. I was like, wow, that's a big headline. Spectacularly effective? And the article said, goal setting is a scientifically proven way to restructure your brain cells so you're massively more successful. And it's from the Behavioral and Cognitive Neuroscience Review, which in and of itself is a mouthful, right? I mean, in other words, these are people who study the brain and what happens in your brain when you do certain things. And what they're saying is, oh my goodness, you want to change your life in a positive way in 2023, set some goals. It will transform the way you live your life. Set some goals. And for us as followers of Jesus, if you've ever read through the Bible, you have read again and again and again and again that God set goals. Over and over again, God has goals, God has plans, He operates on the basis of plans. Many of His followers talked openly about their goals. I'm going to show you a little bit of that today. And so it's an important spiritual practice that can actually help your life get better. And the science behind it is powerful. So we're starting a brand new series today, and it's called This Is My Year. This is my year. And we're going to talk about some big themes in this series. I have so much that I'm excited to talk to you about. Some brand new topics I've never addressed in this series that we're going to be talking about. But we're going to start today by talking about this. How do you set and reach your goals? Because that's what I really want you to experience. I want you to experience what those scientists are saying is really powerful for your life if you will set and reach your goals. So please open your program. Take out the notes that you'll find inside. Grab a pen, something to write down as we go through your notes. Welcome to those of you watching online as well. If you are watching and you want our notes, you can go to our website at penulchurchlife.com and download these as well for free. So let's jump right into this. This is where all goal setting starts. You have to identify, what's my current reality? You got to answer that question. What is my current reality? All goal setting starts here. Where am I at today? Which is perfect for us to be asking. I don't know when you're watching this online, but today is January 1st. First day of the year. So day 1, what's your reality as you start the new year? Now, the Apostle Paul talked about goal setting a lot, actually. He had very specific goals. One of the things he talked about, he said this way, he said, brothers, do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. And he was talking about his goal to be more like Jesus. So think about climbing up a ladder. It's like, I'm on this rung of the ladder, I'm reaching for the next one, and Paul says, when it comes to being like Jesus, he said, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. I'm not there yet. And that's where all goal setting starts. It's identifying the gaps between where you are and where you want to be, and that's what I'm asking you to think about today. What are the gaps in your life? What are the gaps between where you're at today and where you want to be? And then you got to answer some questions. I put these on your notes today, and you can just think through these. What problems am I facing in my life? It's January 1st. What are the biggest issues you have brought into this new year with you? What do you want to be better? What do you want to be better in your life in 2023? What skills do you need to develop? I mean, we could put so many skills up there, right? Conflict resolution skills, relationship skills, job skills, financial skills. There are a lot of different skills that we could talk about. What might God want me to change or improve in 2023? Is there something I need to start or stop doing that would make my life better this next year? If you look on your notes, I've given you even more. I give you categories of things, of areas of your life you can think through: financial, spiritual, physical, mental, family or relational, work or business, and you can just think through these. And so I've done the work on this last week, as my habit is for years. I'm not sharing my list, but here's my list. There are 8 things that I have identified so far as I enter into 2023 that I would say, here's where I'm at, and here's where I would like to be, and I'm not there, there's a gap. So I've got 8 things on my list right now. For some of you, your list might include things like, there's a lot of emotional pain that's holding you back. You've not healed from some of the trauma that you've experienced in your lifetime, and so it continues to affect you currently. That's where you're at today. That's just honest. You don't feel deeply connected to your spouse or to the significant person in your life. Some of you have a lot of conflict that is very, very unhealthy. It's better to avoid it, you think, in your mind, than to actually try it because it goes so poorly. And that's just a skill, right? Did you know that? Conflict resolution is just a skill. You can learn to fight in a healthier way. Some of you admit, and 63% of Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck. Some of you, this is the biggest need, is that you're falling behind financially. It's not where you want to be. For some of you, you haven't grown in your love for God. If you think through the last 12 months to where you are today, you feel no different in your love for God. Take him or leave him, it doesn't really matter. And that's just honest. It's just, there's no judgment in saying that. It's just about being honest with where you're at. Where are you at today? Some of you have addictions that are really starting to take control. Some of you have anger issues. Have I named one of the topics that you might need to address in 2023? If not, what's on your list? You have to identify that. And one of the key elements of this, by the way, is including God in this whole process. Here's what the Bible says in the book of James. He said, what you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we shall live and do this or that. Otherwise, you'll be bragging about your own plans, and such self-confidence never pleases God. So God doesn't want you just to run around and make all your own plans for 2023. That's the essence of this verse. It's not that he's opposed to planning, not at all, as we'll show you later. He doesn't want you just to make up whatever you want for 2023. That's when we showed you that verse earlier in the service about he is willing to guide you onto the right path. He wants you on the right path. So you have to invite him to show you that. Look at this. Here's a sample prayer. I put this up here, and I'm going to give you just a few seconds. I want you to pray this if you're willing. I want you to pray this prayer right now and begin to involve God in your new year. Perfect day to do it, January 1. So I'll give you just a moment to pray that. It was interesting. I was praying that this morning, and I thought of a 9th thing that I think God wants me to work on in 2023. Now, you can't work on 9, by the way. You're just building your list. But there was something that was really clear this morning when I was praying that. I want to know what he wants for me in 2023. So this is why we do these kind of things. All right, so all the goal setting starts there. It's like, where am I at currently? Then you write a smarter goal, and smarter is capitalized for a reason. If you've looked on the back of your notes, you already know why. You write a smarter goal. So back to what Paul said. Paul said, I'm here. I have not yet taken hold of it. I'm reaching for it. This is the direction I'm going. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm going. And then he went on to say this. He said, forgetting what is behind, I'm straining toward what is ahead. I press on toward, there's that word, the goal, to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Paul was very goal-driven. It's not the only place he talked about goals. He actually said in another place, I believe it was the book of Romans, he said, I want to go to a place and talk about Jesus where they've never even heard of Jesus. That's one of his goals in life. They had multiple goals. He said, I'm just pressing on toward the goal. So you've got to define, okay, so here's where I'm at. Where do I really want to go in 2023? So that's what I did. I made a list of all the things that I feel like I want to be better in 23. And then I started writing my goals. One of the goals that for some of you, one of the biggest goals in 2023 might be that you want to see God actually showing up in your life and doing something that you can't take credit for. Wouldn't that be cool? You saw God do something in your life that is only a God story. If you don't have God stories, there's something missing in your life. We're going to do a whole series on prayer starting around February where we will walk you through how to see God work through your prayer time. So I'm really excited about that coming. Some of you, at the end of 2023, want to have friends. One of the biggest casualties of COVID was loneliness. Or one of the biggest outcomes of COVID was loneliness, as we stopped working in the offices and we stopped meeting together and people stopped going to church and all of a sudden relationships just disintegrated and people were so alone, and many, many, many people are alone right now. And they don't have close friendships. And some of you, this is like the deepest cry of your heart is, if something could change that would be beneficial for you, is by the end of the year you've started to build a core group of good, close, personal friends. People to do life with. Some of you want to have a deeper connection with your spouse by the end of the year. I mean, it's so common in America that you just have roommates, but not the real connection that Jesus talks about and the Bible talks about. Some of you hate your job. Some of you just can't stand your job, and you would love for 2023 to bring you something different. Some of you want a balanced budget or an emergency fund or be free from an addiction. Maybe it's an addiction that nobody else even knows that you carried in here today. It'd be great to see some of these things happen. Well, that's where goals come in. So one of the goals that I put down, which is going to seem silly to all of you, okay, I just admit it. So I want to learn the skill of coaching. I want to be a better coach, and not a sports coach. Just kind of being able to coach people through life. Now that's not, so it's one of my needs that I've identified. Here's the goal that comes out of it, but that's not a real goal, by the way. That's a wish. Wish I was better at coaching, because there's nothing to that that's measurable, right? So flip your notes over in the back, and this is where you need to really think through, and this is where I see people fail in goals. They put these kind of big things up. Oh, I hope I get better at that. I hope my marriage gets better. That's just a wish. You have to write your goal so that it meets the smarter characteristics. It's specific and measurable. Is that specific or measurable, what I've written up there? All I have to do is go home and read one article, and I've done it. Right? I'm done. I have learned something new about coaching. Done. That's not specific. That's not measurable. It's got to be actionable, realistic, time-bound. But here's the big... So I changed it. This is the actual goal that I'm shooting for in 2023. The one I'm willing to share with you all. I want to prepare and teach a 90-minute course on the skill of coaching by the end of the year. Okay, now that's specific, right? Very measurable. Some of you could care less about my goal. This is sounds like torture for you. But this is incredibly exciting to me. Thank God, right? We're all different. We all like different things. I love this stuff. This is so exciting to me, and that is critical, because whatever you write down for goals, you know why I see people fail in goals all the time? Is because they miss letter E on the back. Matter of fact, if you've got your notes, you see letter E right here, it says exciting. Would you circle the word exciting? Because if you don't care about it, you know what you're going to do? Nothing. Nothing at all. So many times people set New Year's resolutions that are what their mom wants them to set, or what their doctor wants them to set, or what their boss wants them to set, but they don't care about it. So you know what happens to those resolutions? They flame right out. They won't go anywhere. It has to be something you care about. Because if you don't care about it, you'll never do it. I care a lot about achieving that goal. I care a lot. Here's part of why. So I ask questions. Why do I want this? Well, will be better if I accomplish it. But can I picture myself accomplishing it? Here's what I know. Did you know that coaching is one of the most powerful leadership skills you can develop? Did you know that? And plus, you know what? My youngest child is 24. Oh, that's bad. I can't remember. So she's young. She's grown. They're all gone. They don't need a directive dad anymore, do they? They need a coach. They need someone who can ask good questions, and they don't need me to be telling them what to do. They're all adults. Matter of fact, if I fall into the telling them what to do, I hurt them and damage the relationship. Some of you who parent adult children right now, you know that. That's not what's best for them. So I have all of these reasons why I want to be better at coaching by the end of the year, and they are exciting and compelling to me. They may sound boring to you, but they are exciting to me. So you have to identify what's exciting. Matter of fact, on the back of your notes, you see this sample. Here's a sample goal format. Here's step one, what's the problem, what's the goal, and then the prize. If I do this, why is this exciting to you? And you have to define why it's exciting to you. And if it's not exciting to you, you won't do it. And until you really can picture why this is exciting for you, okay, you won't go after it because you're going to have to bring energy to it. And that's why you have to think this through. What are the reasons why I want to chase this? So why do you desire it? I want it because. All right. Now what you do, once you've got through those first two steps, is now you have to create a plan. And there's the question you have to answer. What steps will you take to achieve this goal in 2023? What steps are you going to take to achieve this goal? You got to have a plan. Any of you ever watch any of those survival shows on TV? I actually used to watch them all the time. One of my favorite was Bear Grylls. I don't know if he's still on, but I remember one time, it was probably about 10 years ago, when I was really into it. They dumped Bear Grylls in the middle of Africa. So if you don't know him, he's like this survivalist. He knows everything about how to survive in any environment. It's incredible what he can survive in. I mean, I'd be dead in 5 minutes, and he just makes it through. So one time they dumped him in the desert. It was like an African desert. And if you've ever watched it, you ever watch these shows, you know what they do. They immediately come up with a plan. We're going to go here, we're going to build this, we're going to gather this, and they follow this plan, and they execute on a plan. Whereas, dump me in that desert, and I'm just going to run around in circles and go, I have no plan. I don't even know what to do. One of the crazy things, though, I'll never forget this, about 10 years ago I saw this. He was in Africa, they dumped him there, and he was surviving, and he was going on this place. He was going to this, this mound, and he was going to be, I don't remember all of it anymore, but I do remember this. He came across a big pile of elephant poo. A big pile of elephant poo. And he goes, oh my goodness, this is incredible, just what I need. Did you know that elephant poo contains nutrients and liquid? And you can squeeze the liquid out, and it will keep you alive in an emergency. And I thought, I will never be in such a great emergency that I have to survive on elephant poo liquid. You'll find my body right next to the big pile of elephant poo and say, oh, how sad. He was so close. It's like, I don't care. But he knew what to do, and I wouldn't know what to do, right? That's what amazes me about the shows. It's like they always have a plan. They know what to do, and they're moving forward. And that's, when I see goal setting fail in my life, it's because there's no plan. Or the plan I wrote is wrong. So I see that a lot in my own life. But there were so many verses in the Bible about planning. I just picked this one. It's one of my favorites. The plans of the diligent will lead to profit. Your life gets better when you know how to plan. So this is challenging, though. So one of the things that you need to understand, and this is really, really good news, God has wired our bodies so that we don't have to come up with these long, elaborate plans with 27 steps and now we're going to achieve our goals. Instead, there's a wonderful book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and in there he said this, what you need to figure out is what's the keystone habit? What's the one change you can make that will make this all better? And he discovered in his research that it's not 50 things you have to change. It's usually one or maybe two new habits that you add in, and when you make those little changes, all of a sudden, all these other things start to happen. So this is really good news. Your plan doesn't have to have 27 steps. It has to have a few. What's your keystone habit? What's your keystone habit? So here's what he said. It's small changes or habits that people introduce into their routines that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of their lives. So it's like dominoes begin to fall. I put this into my life, and all of a sudden, all these things started happening. I didn't know that they're all going to happen. He gave an example. He said this one guy really resolved the beginning of the year that he was going to start shooting for 8 hours of sleep every single night. You know that's what they say that we're supposed to get, 7 or 8 hours every single night. The health benefits are amazing. Many, many, many Americans do not. So that was a keystone habit, one of the changes he made in his life to get more healthy. He immediately discovered he became more productive at work. It reduced his desire for junk food. Does anyone else, when I read that, I knew exactly what he meant. When I get exhausted and I'm running on fumes, I feel like I can never get full. I never feel like I get full. And I just want to eat every sweet thing in my house. So when I read that, I knew exactly what he was talking about. He gave him more time to exercise, which of course had all kinds of other benefits in his life. And the biggest thing he noticed was improved communication with his spouse. Why? Well, he wasn't so cranky all the time. He wasn't so exhausted. Do you have a rule in your house that past a certain time of night, you don't discuss certain topics, right? Because you're not at your best. Your brain won't work that well. You're too tired and crabby, and you're not very rational. And so all of a sudden, when he had energy during the day, it changed the relationship with his spouse. That's a keystone habit. He changed one thing, and all these other dominoes fell in his life. That's the idea, is that you need to think about it. And if you Google that phrase, you'll find all kinds of examples. Many, many people talk about daily exercise as a keystone habit. When you exercise, then it all of a sudden has all these other benefits in your life. Planning your day, I'm a big believer in that. Every day, I know exactly what I'm going to be getting done that day. I never start my day at my office without knowing exactly what the priorities are. And then, I have this as a later one, starting your day with the hardest thing. Couldn't agree more. You ever heard that? There's a book title, and something like, at the start of your day, every day, eat a live frog, and then nothing worse will happen to you the rest of the day, right? So that's the concept here, is you start with the hardest thing. Get it out of the way, and then the rest of your day is easier. So what's the hardest, most important thing you got to get done every day, and that's what you start with. It's a keystone habit. There's so many examples, and again, 8 hours of sleep is an example. Seeing a counselor is a huge turning point in many people's lives. That man's life, the video we showed you of the guy, the biker who wanted to kill people, heroin addict, his life was totally transformed when Jesus became the focus of his life. And we could show you story after story after story after story after story, and we will. In 2023, we'll continue to show you stories of people's lives changed by Jesus. He is a real God, and if you make him the priority of your life, you get to that point of daily surrender where it's like, God, this is your day today. You guide me, and I'll do what you want. You get to that point, that is a keystone habit. Will transform your life. I have changed my connection with God so much so that I can't wait for my time alone with God in the morning. I can't wait to pray. Can't wait to hear what he has to say to me. You can build that kind of close relationship with God where you can't wait to hear from him. So let me go back to one of my goals. Again, I'm giving you the easiest one I can explain. So here's my plan. I'm going to read 5 books this year on coaching. I already bought 3 of them. I'm going to research 15 minutes a week on LinkedIn. So simple to do. And I'm going to conduct 3 mentoring phone calls where I'm calling people who are good coaches and just ask them if they'll give me their time. Do you know most people will say yes to that? Did you know that? If you want to learn a skill, go find someone who's really good at it. And LinkedIn's great for that. Find someone who's really good at it and then send them a private message, and you always start with this: I promise I'm not a salesman. It's the opening sentence you have to start with. And then you say, I'm just trying to learn this skill. Would you be willing to give me 30 minutes of your time? I just set one of those calls up yesterday. The woman wrote back within 5 minutes, like, I'd love to talk to you. It's like, thank you. You know how much I'm going to learn from people who are already ahead of me? It's like, geez. And then, I want to create a course outline by October. Now, the key thing that's missing is, and some of you are smart enough or intuitive enough to get it, great. That will get me to my goal. But when am I going to do it? I work 2 jobs. So this is all the right stuff, but when am I going to do it? And so the keystone habit for me is, it's the first 15 minutes after the end of my day. That's all it will take. I shut my laptop from my full-time job, and for the first 15 minutes, I either read it or do some research on LinkedIn. By the way, just this morning, out of curiosity, I Googled coaching tips on YouTube. Oh my goodness. Hundreds of videos. I stopped scrolling. All I'd have to do is spend 15 minutes at the end of my day watching 1 video a day. You know how much I'd learn? You know how much great free knowledge there is in our world? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't care what skill you want to learn. You want to learn how to be better? You know how many videos there are on how to improve your marriage? Millions. How to kick an addiction? Millions. How to find the job that you're going to love? I don't know how many. Lots. Lots and lots and lots and lots. You could spend 15 minutes a day and change your life on any area of your life you want to learn about. So this is just my plan. But what I've seen is, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this, because I love to coach people with this. If you want to set goals and you want me to look at them, send them to me. I promise I will give you all my feedback. I love doing this. But what I see over and over again is people set goals and they have no plan on how they're going to achieve it. How many of you think that by the end of 2023, you're going to just drift into some positive things? Oh my goodness, I just know I'm going to be so much healthier at the end of 2023. I'm not going to try, but I'm going to get emotionally healthier. I'm going to kick that addiction. I'm going to watch less TV. My kids are going to love me, right? You think you're going to drift into that? You all know that's not going to happen. If you don't put a plan together and then execute on the plan, you won't achieve it. It's just a wish without a plan. And this is what I see people fail on all the time is, what's your plan? How are you going to do it? And then here's the key thing. Involve the right people. And I have learned a lot about this over the years. So involve the right people. And there are two things that I've learned about this one. The first thing is this. You got to go get wisdom from successful people. People that are already doing what you want. People that have a good marriage. People that are really successful in the field you want to be in. People that have overcome something that you want to overcome or learned a new skill that you want to learn. You got to go get that knowledge from them. Here's what the Bible says. Get all the advice and instruction you can, because you know what will happen? You'll be wise the rest of your life. So, he's like, just go get it. It's there in this world right now. You can get it. You can get all the advice and instruction you need on any area of your life you want to improve. And he says, then you'll have wisdom, and that wisdom will be with you for the rest of your life. And then I started thinking about all the ways that God has given us in the world that we live in right now to go get instruction and wisdom from wise people, right? You can read a book. And I know that I know so many Americans won't read a single book in 2023, okay? So don't get hung up on that one. Some of you, this isn't your learning style. Okay. Can you listen to something? Do you know how many podcasts there are for me on how to improve my coaching skills? Do you know how many podcasts there are on how to improve your finances in 2023? How many podcasts there are on how to improve your marriage in 2023? Okay, so if reading isn't your thing, how about that one? Like I just said, YouTube videos, just endless amounts on any subject you want to learn. Researching on Google. If I spent 15 minutes a day researching coaching on Google, I would have more content than I could ever put together and share. 15 minutes, that's all it is. On anything you want to learn, do those mentoring calls like I said. So then the other piece of this, and this is the key thing that's really changed my goal setting over the last few years, the last thing I want to say to you is ask someone to do this with you. You want to really change how you feel about goals, get a partner. So let me tell you the story of my partner. It was 2016. I had set goals for 25 years alone in my life. Some years did amazing, some years, not so amazing. In 2016, I asked a good friend of mine, I said to him, hey, would you want to do this with me this year? I'll set goals, you set goals, we'll share our goals, and we'll kind of encourage each other during the year. And he said, no, I don't want to. He hated goals, didn't want to do it. And then a little while later he said, I changed my mind. I want to do this with you. I'm like, okay. So we did that. We had no idea what it was going to look like, how we were going to even do it, and all these different ideas at the beginning. So I type mine up on my computer, and then I type in my goals. And by the way, if you're just getting started, just set 1 or 2 goals. So I usually try never to go past 5. 5 goals is plenty. So I had my 5, and I type them up, and I do the format that you see on the back, right here, every single piece of it. And so I send them to my partner, and he types his up and sends them to me. And then what happened was, over the years, it's kind of turned into this thing, and I can't even tell you how grateful I am for my friend. So it's turned into, he lives a couple hours away, and usually on the very first week of every month, my friend will take his goals, and then he will update them. So like on February 1st, he'll type in January. What did he get done on this goal? January, what did he get done on goal number 2? January, what he got done on goal number 3? And sometimes he types nothing, didn't get anything done. And we're really honest with each other. We don't lie to each other. We're just like, yep, got nothing done here, nothing done here, nothing done here. We just talk about it, and then we email it back. I can't tell you how many times he's emailed me, and I haven't even thought about my goals. And I'm like, ooh, thank you for the reminder, and I need to go look at my goals again. And what it does is it keeps our goals front and center all year long. He's better at this than I am. He's way better at this than I am. So I'm so grateful that he does this with me, because he makes me better, which is exactly what the Bible says. Look at this. 2 people are better off than one because they can help each other. Look at that last word, succeed. If you want to succeed at your goals, bring someone in. I've done it both ways. 20-some years alone, the last 5 years with someone. We'll never go back to doing it alone. It's so much better. And you make it work for you, whatever works for you. So here's what I want to say. I know that I have not convinced a whole percentage of the 80% of you that don't like goals. Okay, I know that. But I want you to at least think about the choice that you're making if you decide to walk out here and say no to this. Okay? You need to understand this. It's a key story that really changed my life and changed my mind about this, and also some of my kids who really get this and do it. This was a story that they still talk about. Years ago, a young woman went to see a man named Dr. Henry Cloud. He's one of my favorite authors and Christian psychologists. He was teaching on this subject of goal setting, and afterwards this young woman, she's probably in her early 20s, came up to him and said, thanks for talking about this. She said, I'm so frustrated. Can I just talk to you about something going wrong in my life? And he said, of course. And she said, since I was a little girl, I have always wanted to be an attorney all my life. She said, I watched lawyer shows all the time on TV when I was a little girl. I used to go to the courthouse and watch trials when they would let me in. So she said, I've always dreamed of it. It's what I want to do so badly. And he said, well, what do you do now? And she said, well, I work for a tax agency. He said, do you like what you do? And she said, I hate what I do. I hate it. And so he asked her, why don't you go do this? And she said, well, it would take too long. And he said, well, how long would it take? She said, you know the answer, 3 years to get a law degree. So then he said, okay, so let me see if I got this. You hate what you're doing, but you don't want to chase what you want to do because it's going to take 3 years. And she said, yeah. And he said to her, okay, do you plan to be alive in 3 years? And she was young, and she laughed, and she said, well, I hope so. He said, okay, all right, so you plan to be alive in 3 years, so it's not a matter of whether or not you're going to be there. You're going to be there. He said, 3 years is going to come and go. He said, do you want in 3 years to be in a job that you still hate, doing exactly what you don't want to be doing, or do you want that passing of time to bring you to the point where 3 years from now you've got your law degree and you're doing what you love doing? He said, you don't have a choice about whether time is going to pass. Time is going to pass. The only question is, will the passing of time bring you what you want or more of what you don't want? And that's what I want you all to think about as you leave today. You know that we're going to blink. We're going to turn around. I'm going to be standing up here saying, Merry Christmas. It's the end of 2023. Can you believe it, right? Because a moment ago, I was wishing you all Happy New Year in January of 2022. And now that year is gone. Especially as you get older. You all know what I'm talking about. As you get older, the years sprint by so fast. You know that this year is going to go by. My question is to you is, will it go by and bring you more of what you want? Or will it go by and bring you more of what you got? That's your only choice. Time is going to go by. Will it bring you what you want in life? If you want it to bring you what you want in life, then identify what needs to change. Write that smarter goal, and don't try and write too many. Write out your action steps, just like you see on the back, and ask someone for help. And I volunteer, by the way. I won't do the monthly thing with you, but if you want me to look at your goals, I will love to do that. I'm working on coaching, so I could be helpful. So send them to me. I promise I'll give you any feedback I can. But the reason why this all works so well, too, as I said at the beginning, is that because God put a plan in motion 2,000 years ago. Our God is an amazing planner. The Bible says when the time was right, God the Son entered into this world at the right time in the plan of God, and then gave his life on a cross for all of us as part of his plan, so that you and I could be in a new relationship with God in 2023. Let me have you bow your heads as we finish up today. Maybe this is the next step for you. The most important step is to let Jesus Christ into your life and let him start to take control. The first thing he will do is completely forgive you, past, present, and future, everything, paid for by him on a cross. There's no more debt when you let him into your life. But more than that, like the promise we quoted at the beginning, he wants to guide you along the right path. And that means this daily act of surrender to him. It's like, you're in charge, I'm following you, you show me the right path and I'll follow you. And if you want him, you can have him, not religion and not rituals. You can have the living God inside of you, guiding you through this next year, whatever comes. If you want him, with your head bowed and your eyes closed, just say something like this in your heart to him. Say, Jesus, I don't understand it all yet. But with the faith I have, I'm turning to you today. Please, forgive me. I'm not perfect. I fully admit that. And I need you in my life. Please forgive me and come and make your home inside of me today. I'm turning my life over to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, as we finish, can I ask you all to grab your connection card out of your program? And maybe today you asked him to forgive you. Just let us know. There's a box right here you can check, or you renewed your commitment to him. If you have comments about today or a prayer request, this is how you communicate with us as a church. Just take a moment and put down anything you want us to pray about, and then just drop it in one of those 2 offering boxes back on the back walls. For some of you, just a reminder on the way out, one of these resources is going to be a keystone habit for you. It's going to introduce you to a new way of thinking about God that you never knew before, and it's going to change your life. So please take them. They're yours. They're free on your way out. Thanks so much for coming. Hope to see you again next week.